I quit my job to travel the world, and it was the best decision I ever made. I was dying at my desk. Not literally, at least not yet. But you know that feeling when you're sitting in an office, staring at a computer screen for the 87th hour in a row, and you just feel nothing. That was me, every single day. I was so burnt out I couldn't even remember what I liked doing outside of work anymore. I hadn't taken a proper vacation in over a year. I was stuck in a cycle of waking up, working, eating, and then falling into bed, only to do it all over again. I swear, I thought my soul was leaving my body one email at a time. It wasn't always like this. At first, my job seemed exciting. I had this dream of climbing the corporate ladder, making money, getting promoted, living the American dream. But after a few years of endless meetings, ridiculous deadlines, and working myself into the ground, I realized I was chasing something that wasn't even real. The paychecks were nice, but what was the point of it all if I felt like a shell of myself? So one day, after one too many hours staring blankly at a spreadsheet, I said, F asterisk it. I stood up, walked to my boss's office, and quit. Cold turkey, no notice, no backup plan, just I'm done. And guess what? It was the best decision I ever made. I didn't have a grand plan. Hell, I didn't even have a clear idea of where I was going next. I had savings, sure, but I wasn't about to live like a king. My only plan was to not be stuck in that office anymore. I sold most of my stuff, bought a one-way ticket to Spain, and decided to figure things out as I went. If I was going to die at my desk, at least I'd die somewhere with a view, right? I don't think I fully realized what I was getting myself into. I mean, yeah, I thought I knew. I imagined myself sipping cocktails on a beach in Thailand or hiking through the mountains of Peru, feeling at peace with the world. But reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I remember landing in Spain, feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. It was all so new. No deadlines, no emails, no Zoom calls. Just me, a backpack, and the entire world ahead of me. And then I got to my hostel in Barcelona and realized I had no idea what the hell to do next. It was like a weird form of freedom, and it freaked me out a little. I spent the first few days just wandering around, trying to get my bearings. I walked along the beach, ate too many tapas, yes, it's possible, and tried to figure out how to actually live without a schedule. I didn't have a job to go to, no one was telling me what to do, and I was starting to wonder if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I mean, the money wasn't going to last forever, right? And I had no idea how long I could keep up this carefree thing. But then, one evening, I sat by the ocean in Barcelona and watched the sun set over the water. The sky was filled with the most vibrant shades of orange and purple. For the first time in years, I felt completely alive. I didn't need a fancy office or a paycheck to feel fulfilled. I had everything I needed right there in front of me, this moment, the freedom, and a world full of possibilities. I felt a shift inside of me. Something clicked. It was like a part of me that had been dead for so long came back to life. I realized that the dream job I had been chasing didn't matter anymore. It was just a distraction from the things that actually made me happy. I wasn't living for the next promotion or the next raise. I was living for the experiences. The people I met, the places I visited, the moments I felt truly present. That was the stuff that mattered. Now, I'm not going to lie and say it was all sunshine and rainbows. There were definitely moments when I thought I was out of my mind. Like that time I ran out of cash in India and had to crash on a stranger's couch for a week-long story. Or the time I got lost in the middle of nowhere in China and had to rely on Google Translate to ask for directions. That wasn't fun. But somehow, even in those moments of chaos and uncertainty, I felt more alive than I had in years. I kept traveling, first to India, then to Germany, Australia, and China. Each place brought new challenges, new experiences, and new people. And with each country, I learned more about myself. I learned how to handle stress without freaking out, how to enjoy the small moments, and how to embrace the unknown. And honestly, I felt more myself than I had in ages. So yeah, I kept going. And the more I traveled, the more I realized how much I had been missing in my old life. Let me tell you about one of the weirdest, most eye-opening experiences I had when I found myself completely lost in the middle of nowhere in China. It all started in a small town near Chengdu. I had decided to take a spontaneous detour to visit a tea farm because why not? Well, I didn't exactly research how to get there, I just sort of showed up and assumed there'd be signs or that someone would speak enough English to point me in the right direction. Spoiler alert, there were no signs, no one spoke English, and I didn't speak a word of Chinese. Oh, there I was, wandering down what felt like an endless dirt road in the middle of nowhere with no one around to ask for help. The sun was setting, and the whole place started looking like something out of a surreal movie. Old wooden houses, fields stretching as far as the eye could see, and not a single tourist in sight. I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to be that story people tell about dumb tourists who wander off the beaten path and end up in a Chinese horror movie. But you know what? That moment was actually kinda beautiful. The silence was deafening, and there was this peacefulness to being alone in a place that felt so completely different from anything I'd known. Sure, I was lost, but I started to embrace the unpredictability of it all. After a while, I just started laughing at the absurdity of it. Eventually, I came across a family working in a tea field, and I awkwardly used my Google Translate app to ask them for directions. They didn't understand me, but somehow, through a mix of charades and broken Chinese, they managed to point me in the right direction. I still had no idea where I was, but I just followed their directions and trusted that somehow I'd find my way. And guess what? I did. I stumbled across a little village, and from there I was able to catch a ride back to Chengdu. It was definitely one of those, I can't believe I'm still alive moments, but I felt this incredible sense of accomplishment. That little adventure, getting lost, finding my way back, connecting with strangers in the most bizarre way, became one of the highlights of my trip. I'd never have had that kind of experience sitting behind a desk. I wouldn't have met the people I met or had the moments of awe that I had. There were times I felt like I was just surviving, just trying to make it through the next moment. But in that, I was really living. It wasn't about the destination. It was about embracing the unpredictability and finding joy in the chaos. And there was Germany, specifically Berlin. I went there with zero expectations, just planning to explore the city, maybe hit up a few museums. But what happened was completely unexpected. I wandered into this small underground club in Kreuzberg one night. It was so unassuming from the outside, no signs, just a tiny door with a flickering neon light. Inside, it was a vibe. People from all over the world crammed into this tiny space, dancing like nobody was watching, all to some insane electronic beats. I ended up chatting with a group of travelers from all over, France, Brazil, Japan, and we immediately clicked. It felt like we had known each other for years, even though we had just met. We spent hours talking about life, our travels, and the different cultures we came from. We laughed, shared stories, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was part of something bigger. Next day, we all went to a park in Berlin and had a picnic with food we bought from little local stands. As we ate and laughed, I thought to myself, this is it. This is what life is all about. Connecting with strangers, experiencing new things, and feeling like you belong, that's the stuff that made quitting my job worth it. These moments were so far beyond the soul-crushing grind of office life, and I was so glad I made the leap. There were, of course, still those tough days. When money got tight, when I felt homesick, when I realized I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. I had moments of doubt. Oh, did I have moments of doubt? But I'd remind myself that I wasn't just living to work. I was living to experience. And no matter how hard things got, there was always something incredible just around the corner. Like that time, I almost missed my flight to Australia because I got lost in the airport. Because apparently, airports are designed like mazes. Or the time I fell asleep in a temple in India and woke up to the sound of chanting monks. The thing that really hit me the most was how my view of life had shifted. In the past, I used to think that happiness came from success, climbing the corporate ladder, making more money, buying the next big thing. But now I saw happiness in the little moments, staring out at a sunset in Spain, meeting a local who shared their favorite hidden cafe with me, or hearing stories from fellow travelers who had been to places I could only dream of. This wasn't the life I thought I wanted when I was working my desk job, but it was the life I needed. The time I reached Australia, I had been on the road for over a year. I had seen and done more than I ever thought possible, but something inside me started shifting. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it. I still loved the adventure, the spontaneity, the freedom, but I also started craving something else. Stability, routine, a place to call home. It was weird because I had spent so much time running away from all that, but now I wasn't so sure anymore. One night, I was sitting on a beach in Sydney, watching the waves roll in. The sky was a perfect mix of deep blues and purples, and for the first time in months, I let myself think about what came next. Not just the next flight, the next country, or the next hostel. I mean, what did I actually want to do with my life? Thing is, quitting my job to travel didn't magically solve all my problems. It didn't erase my anxieties, my doubts, or my occasional existential crises. But what it did do was give me perspective. I realized that I didn't need to follow a blueprint to be happy. I didn't have to work a job that drained me just because it looked good on paper. I didn't have to measure my life by promotions, paychecks, or LinkedIn updates. I had spent so much of my life thinking I needed to become something, a successful employee, a responsible adult, someone who had it all figured out. But through all my travels, I learned that life isn't about reaching some final version of yourself. It's about experiencing, evolving, and constantly redefining what happiness means to you. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going back to my old life, but I also wasn't going to wander forever. I wanted to take everything I had learned, the freedom, the perspective, the appreciation for the little things, and build a life that actually felt right. One where I could still explore, still chase experiences, but without burning myself out. So I moved to a smaller city, took a job that didn't consume my soul, and started focusing on the things that actually mattered. Experiences over things, moments over money, people over status. And you know what? I'm happier than I've ever been. If you're stuck in a job that makes you miserable, if you're waking up every day feeling like you're running on autopilot, let me tell you this, you don't have to keep doing it. Life is too damn short to spend it waiting for weekends and vacations. You don't have to quit your job and travel the world to find happiness, but you do have to start asking yourself what actually makes you feel alive. And then, little by little, start moving toward that. Trust me, it's worth it.